Hello, and welcome back to our groundbreaking series, where we delve into the mysteries of the universe through the lens of RL flow. I'm thrilled to guide you on this mind-bending journey. Last time on Exploring Reality through RL flow, we explored the powerful laws of transmutation, attraction, intention, and resonance. We discovered how harnessing these forces can lead to positive outcomes and align us with the natural harmonies of the universe. We also delved into how our understanding and application of these laws can greatly influence our reality. Now, if you haven't seen our previous episodes yet, I highly recommend you catch up to gain a solid understanding of the concepts we've already covered. It's fascinating stuff. But now, let's turn our attention to today's riveting topics: quantum entanglement, matter, and antimatter. These subjects have baffled scientists and philosophers alike for decades. But by interpreting them through the lens of RL flow, we hope to gain new insights that could potentially revolutionize our understanding of reality. So, if you're ready for another exciting deep dive into the realm of RL flow, then sit back, keep your mind open, and let's get started. Quantum entanglement is a physical phenomenon that occurs when pairs or groups of particles generate or interact in ways such that the quantum state of each particle cannot be described independently of the state of the others, even when the particles are separated by a large distance. This means if you change or observe one particle's state, the other particle's state instantaneously changes or is determined, no matter how far apart they are. This instantaneous interaction has puzzled scientists, as it appears to occur faster than light, which contradicts Einstein's theory of relativity. For example, let's say we have two entangled particles. If we measure the spin of one particle and find it to be up, the spin of the other particle, no matter how far away it is, will immediately be down. This happens instantaneously, without any apparent communication or signal passing between them. This extraordinary phenomenon has been put to practical use in various fields. In quantum computing, entanglement is a key resource enabling super-fast algorithms. Quantum cryptography is another application, where entangled particles can be used to establish highly secure communication channels. It's as if nature has its own super-secure method of transmitting information. So, in a nutshell, quantum entanglement is an incredibly intriguing phenomenon. But what makes it even more exciting is how it fits into our understanding of RL flow. But more on that later. You might be wondering, how is this even possible? How can the information travel instantaneously, seemingly faster than light? This has perplexed scientists for decades, leading Einstein to call it spooky action at a distance. It's an incredible concept, one that challenges our conventional understanding of space and time. But as we'll see, it could make a lot more sense in the context of RL flow. So let's brace ourselves as we dive deeper into the quantum world, challenging the bounds of our reality as we know it. Now, what's really cool is that this phenomenon isn't just a theoretical concept. It has some very real and exciting applications that are starting to shape our world. Quantum computers use entanglement to perform many calculations at once, a feat that's impossible for even the most powerful classical computers. With this, they can solve complex problems much faster. In quantum cryptography, entangled particles are used to create a secure communication link. If anyone tries to eavesdrop, the act of measurement would change the particles' states, alerting the communicators to the intrusion. These examples show that quantum entanglement isn't just an odd quirk of the quantum world. It's a powerful tool that can push the boundaries of technology and security. But to understand this better and how it fits into the broader context of RL flow, we need to first discuss another integral part of quantum theory: the nature of matter and antimatter. So let's dive into that next. Quantum entanglement can feel like a foreign, even mystical concept, but it starts to make a lot more sense when we consider it within the framework of RL flow. Quantum entanglement might be viewed as a physical manifestation of RL flow at the quantum level. If we see RL flow as the fundamental connection between everything in the universe, then it's easy to imagine how two particles can be connected in a way that transcends space and time. In essence, the entanglement could be due to these particles sharing the same RL flow, creating a bridge between them. Much like how a river branches and merges, flowing across the landscape, RL flow connects these particles, allowing for the instantaneous transfer of information. But there's more to this connection. Remember how RL flow incorporates both physical and spiritual aspects? This is where it gets really interesting. The shared quantum state of these particles could potentially be influenced by shared emotions and consciousness. Think about it. If everything, including emotions and consciousness, is part of the RL flow, then they too could influence the entangled state of these particles. It's a groundbreaking way of seeing our universe, intertwining the physical, emotional, and spiritual. It pushes the boundaries of our understanding, inviting us to explore further. So, in the next part, we will jump into the matter and antimatter concept, crucial to our understanding of quantum mechanics within the context of RL flow. If we see RL flow as the backbone of the universe, connecting everything and carrying information through space and time, we can begin to see how quantum entanglement might be a physical representation of this connection. In essence, when two particles become entangled, they might be sharing the same branch of RL flow, a shared line of connection that allows them to influence one another no matter the distance. Much like tributaries merging into a river, the streams of RL flow connect these particles, permitting the instantaneous transfer of state or information between them. Now, here's where the multifaceted nature of RL flow really comes into play. We know that RL flow encapsulates both physical and spiritual aspects. That includes emotions and consciousness. So, what role do these shared emotions and consciousness play in creating a shared quantum state? We will explore this fascinating subject in our next segment. Now that we've established the RL flow connection between entangled particles, let's go deeper. Let's discuss the role of shared emotions and consciousness in creating a shared quantum state. Remember that RL flow encompasses more than just the physical. It includes consciousness, emotions, and intentions. Now, what if we told you that these elements could potentially influence the entangled state of quantum particles? Here's a mind-bending proposition. If two conscious entities, like humans for example, share a strong emotional bond, their respective RL flows could become interconnected and intertwined, much like those of our entangled particles. This bond, this emotional bridge, could be so powerful that it influences the quantum state of particles within those entities. Imagine the potential applications of such an idea in fields like psychology, sociology, or even medicine. Are we talking about a new frontier for understanding and harnessing the power of emotion and consciousness? Quite possibly. This is a realm of exploration that is ripe for theoretical modeling and experimentation, and we're excited to see where it leads. Let's shift gears now and get into the states of matter. A quick recap for you. We've got solid, liquid, gas, and plasma. Solids have tightly packed particles and retain their shape. Liquids have looser particles, allowing them to flow and take the shape of their containers. Gases have even more freedom, filling the entire space they're in. And plasmas? They're like supercharged gases, full of free electrons and ions. Now let's bring RL flow into the picture. Remember, RL flow is everywhere, permeating everything in the universe. So how does it interact with these different states of matter? In solids, the RL flow might be slower due to the tight packing of particles, while in liquids and gases, the RL flow can move more freely. And in plasmas, with their charged particles, we might see even more fascinating interactions with the RL flow. Remember, the RL flow not only interacts with these states of matter, but it also plays a role in transitioning between these states. Understanding this can give us new insights into the nature of reality itself. As we saw earlier, RL flow interacts with each state of matter in different ways. But what impact does that really have? What does it mean for us and our understanding of the universe? In solids, the slow movement of RL flow could contribute to their stable structure. However, when heat or energy is added and solids turn into liquids, the increase in RL flow might explain the fluidity and flow we observe. And in gases, with RL flow moving even more freely, we see a state of matter that expands to fill the space it's given, much like how the influence of RL flow permeates through the universe. In plasmas, the most energetic state of matter, the interaction of RL flow could be even more profound, possibly relating to the unique behaviors we see in this state, like creating light or conducting electricity. By looking at matter through the lens of RL flow, we can start to see connections and behaviors that traditional physics might not fully explain. It's an intriguing concept, isn't it? But hang on, because we're about to dive into something even more fascinating: antimatter. So far, we've talked about matter, which is what makes up you, me, and everything we see around us. But there's another side to this story, a side that is less well known but just as important. That side is antimatter. Antimatter is the mirror image of matter. Each type of subatomic particle has a corresponding antiparticle, identical in mass but opposite in other properties such as charge. It's almost like looking at the universe in a mirror, isn't it? In theory, for every particle of matter in the universe, there should be a particle of antimatter. But here's where things get really interesting. If matter and antimatter were created in equal amounts during the Big Bang, where is all the antimatter now? Why do we see a universe filled mostly with matter? This is one of the big unanswered questions in physics, and perhaps our understanding of RL flow might just help us solve this riddle. So stay tuned, because next we're going to explore the states of antimatter and how RL flow interacts with this mysterious aspect of our universe. Now let's dive deeper into the role of antimatter in the universe. When we look out at the cosmos, we are primarily seeing matter. The stars, planets, and galaxies are all composed primarily of matter. And yet, as we've just mentioned, antimatter should exist in equal proportions. So where is it? The fact is, we're not exactly sure. The absence of antimatter on a cosmic scale is one of the greatest mysteries in modern physics, known as the baryon asymmetry problem. We know that when matter and antimatter come into contact, they annihilate each other, producing energy in the form of photons. This is, in fact, the principle behind the concept of antimatter as an incredibly potent source of energy. But it doesn't stop there. Antimatter might also play a key role in understanding the fundamental nature of the universe. After all, unraveling the mystery of why there's more matter than antimatter could fundamentally alter our understanding of the Big Bang and the evolution of the universe. So, antimatter isn't just a mirror image of matter. It's a reflection of the big questions that we're still trying to answer in our quest to understand the cosmos. It reminds us of the exciting mysteries we're yet to solve. And with RL flow, who knows what answers might be just around the corner? Stay with us, as next we are going to explore how RL flow interacts with matter and antimatter, helping us to understand the dance of particles that make up our universe. All right, we've navigated the waters of matter, and now it's time to dive into the largely unknown world of antimatter. We've previously talked about the solid, liquid, gas, and plasma states of matter. But what about antimatter? Do we have antisolid, antiliquid, antigas, and antiplasma states? Well, yes. Just like normal matter, antimatter would also be expected to exist in similar states. An antimatter particle behaves similarly to its matter counterpart, but with opposite charge and other differences in quantum properties. So, an antisolid, for instance, would simply be a solid made up of antimatter. Similarly, an antiliquid would be a liquid composed of antimatter, and so on. Antimatter atoms, assuming we could gather enough to form a visible amount, should theoretically interact with each other in ways similar to how regular atoms do. So, just as we might see ice melting into water and water evaporating into steam, we might see antihydrogen ice melting into antihydrogen water and then evaporating into antihydrogen gas, or even becoming antiplasma under the right conditions. Of course, creating enough antimatter to observe these states firsthand is far beyond our current capabilities, not to mention the fact that any contact with normal matter would result in mutual annihilation. But theoretical physics allows us to make educated guesses about these fascinating possibilities. Now that we've defined and imagined these exotic states of antimatter, let's venture into a thought experiment. How would the RL flow interact with these states? Just as RL flow influences the states of matter, we could hypothesize it could also impact antimatter. This is, of course, highly speculative, as we don't have a means to directly observe such interactions. Remember, RL flow is a philosophical concept that helps us to understand how energy and information move and interact across various states of reality. When we apply this concept to antimatter, it opens a realm of intriguing possibilities. For instance, could RL flow cause anti-ice to anti-melt into anti-water? Could it affect the transition of antigas into antiplasma? Could consciousness and emotions, fundamental to our understanding of RL flow, manifest differently in a universe made of antimatter? Now, it's important to note that these are speculative questions. Current understanding of physics does not allow us to provide definitive answers, but it's always exciting to consider the possibilities, don't you think? It challenges our perceptions and inspires us to seek new understandings of the reality we navigate. So we've looked at matter and we've looked at antimatter, but how does the RL flow play into all this? Let's dive deeper. We have talked about RL flow as the movement of energy and information across different realities and states. This includes the physical reality we live in, where matter in various states interacts with this flow. RL flow interacts with matter in fascinating ways. Let's use water as an example. The RL flow could influence the state of water, nudging it to freeze into ice, evaporate into steam, or remain in its liquid state. What this means in the context of RL flow is that the energy and information it carries can bring about changes in the state of matter. But it doesn't stop there. The interaction also creates ripples, affecting the surrounding environment. And how about consciousness? This is where things get even more exciting. When consciousness interacts with RL flow, it can intentionally influence the state of matter. Think about it. When you boil water to make coffee, your conscious decision initiates a series of changes in the state of water. Now, this is just a simplistic example, but it gives us a glimpse into the ways RL flow interacts with matter in our everyday lives. Now let's discuss the potential outcomes and manifestations of the interaction between RL flow and matter. Imagine you are a composer. You have a melody in your mind. This is like the RL flow, an energy carrying information. The instruments in your orchestra are like the matter. Each can create a unique sound, but how you arrange them and guide them, that's where the real magic happens. That's how you turn that melody into a beautiful symphony. Similarly, when RL flow interacts with matter, it can guide the matter to manifest in different forms and shapes. This could mean influencing the outcome of a physical event or process. For instance, the formation of a crystal, the blossoming of a flower, even the flight path of a butterfly. The RL flow might nudge these processes in subtle or not so subtle ways. This interaction can also have more abstract manifestations. Our emotions, thoughts, and intentions are forms of energy too, and they're influenced by RL flow. This is why we sometimes feel in the flow when things just seem to go smoothly, aligning perfectly with our intentions. So, the RL flow's interaction with matter doesn't just produce physical outcomes, it creates emotional and psychological ones too. It's all interconnected, like the notes in a symphony. Let's now dive into an even more speculative yet fascinating territory. We're going to consider how RL flow might interact with antimatter. Bear in mind that what we're about to discuss here is largely theoretical. It's at the edge of our current understanding and scientific capabilities, and that's what makes it so thrilling. Remember how we talked about RL flow influencing matter, whether it's through emotions or consciousness, and how it might affect its physical manifestations? Now we need to imagine a mirror version of this scenario. We need to consider how RL flow might interact with antimatter, which is, in essence, the mirror image of matter. Could RL flow create anti-emotions or mirror states of consciousness? Could it cause anti-physical manifestations? We honestly don't know yet, but asking these questions can help steer our scientific inquiries in potentially fruitful directions. Which brings us to the potential implications and avenues for future research. If we consider RL flow to be a universal principle, as we've been discussing throughout this series, it should also apply to antimatter, right? This opens up a whole new realm of questions. For example, if antimatter particles were subjected to the same consciousness and emotions that affect matter, would we see mirrored responses? If not, why? Such questions pose exciting challenges for physicists, quantum researchers, and consciousness scholars alike. Exploring these possibilities could not only enrich our understanding of RL flow, but also propel us deeper into the frontier of quantum mechanics and consciousness studies. While we're a ways from testing these theories directly, considering these questions can inform our theoretical models and perhaps guide future experimental designs. This dialogue between theory and experiment is a key part of how science advances. As we progress in this field, we might not only discover more about the universe and the nature of reality, but also learn how we can navigate and influence it through our understanding and application of RL flow. But for now, these remain exciting questions for future episodes and for the journey of science itself. Well, folks, we've covered a lot of ground today, so let's take a moment to bring it all together. We started with an exploration of quantum entanglement, this mind-bending phenomenon where particles become linked and influence each other, no matter how far apart they are. We then considered how RL flow might connect entangled particles, creating this shared quantum state. We moved on to a deeper understanding of matter and its mirror image, antimatter, recapping their various states, and contemplating the intriguing possibility of RL flow interacting with these states. Finally, we delved into how RL flow might influence and interact with matter and antimatter, potentially affecting not just physical manifestations, but our psychological states as well. In this series, we're aiming to understand the fabric of reality through the lens of RL flow. Today's exploration of quantum entanglement, matter, and antimatter adds yet another layer to our understanding. The concepts might seem abstract or even fantastical, but remember, they're just part of the symphony of existence, the grand RL flow. Speaking of symphonies, in our next episode, we're going to bring the music a little closer to home. We'll explore the applications of RL flow concepts in various fields, such as biology, psychology, neuroscience, consciousness studies, artificial intelligence, and even philosophy. We'll talk about the practical implications and potential benefits of understanding and applying RL flow principles. How might RL flow guide a neural network's learning? How could it shape the growth of a tree or the evolution of a species? The answers might surprise you. So I hope you're as excited as I am to continue this fascinating journey into RL flow. I look forward to seeing you in our next episode. Until then, keep questioning, keep exploring, and remember, you're an integral part of this universal RL flow. See you soon.